Hey guys, Uber them here. There was a there's a big patch coming in about a week, and I think I can go in depth on a lot of the details to help you guys out. I'm still having trouble finding out things myself, but I can tell you a few things. So I mean, you can experience this in the PTR if you wish, which is free to everybody, if I recall. There's a new battleground, Lost Cavern. So what we have so far is constant action. This will mean team deathmatches are even more brutal, which I'll get to that in a minute. I like the idea though that healing is very limited. That's very interesting. Keep in mind, there's no mercenary camps, which is scary because that means a lot of junglers, particularly Illidan and Zagara, won't have a lot of power on that map. And also keep in mind, there's no objective whatsoever. So characters like that gank people will probably be even, I don't know, because this means that there's no reason not to just keep pushing. So the characters that are good at pushing, like Sylvanas, are just going to absolutely wreck on that map because there's nothing else to do. There's no objectives. There's regen globes, but I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this, but I like the idea though. I like it when they add new maps. And oh, just one lane. So Lost Cavern has one lane and a lot of team fighting, obviously. This is gonna be interesting though, because characters like Nova and Zeratul who have gank potential won't anymore, which is really fun to hear. Other characters like Kerrigan, Butcher, and the new Dehaka also will be powerless. It's gonna be interesting. What I think Blizzard needs to do is they've been trying to rework Nova for millions of years, and they just added another character that's basically a ganker. And I think they need to, like in the tutorials and in the game, they need to really teach players that being alone is not okay because it punishes your team so heavily if you have a player that's just going off doing whatever. And for some reason, like the game, it doesn't seem like it has any mechanic to it that tells the player, look, the reason why you died is because you weren't with the team, and here's how to fix that. And I'm teaching my friend, and the only the only punishment he gets for being away from the team is death, and he'll just respawn. And like I said, there's not any like discouragement of any kind other than the death itself. But in that case, yes, new hero, Dehaka. I haven't tested him out, but based on this brush stalker thing and his basic abilities, he is a warrior, which is interesting. But it seems like he sets up ganks incredibly well. So I'd assume he'd be put in the ambusher category given to us. Anything else to look over? New hero. Nope. User interface is changing. Ranked play really has changed. They're amplifying the ability for players who, for example, alt tap and do other things while they're waiting for a match to start, which is okay. They're amplifying its ability to like be like, hey, you're supposed to be playing this game. So the ranked requirements now there's bans. So be carefully. I mean, not be carefully. So keep in mind that this allows a lot of teams to either A, make strategic choices, or B, just like completely hate on popular heroes. So I imagine that in the first few weeks, among the unskilled players, there's going to be a lot of bans towards Dehaka, to Zul, to Li Ming, and to Rhaegar. And Rhaegar and Li Ming have kind of been reworked to the point where I think they're at a pretty good level. Keep in mind, by the way, that I don't know where it says it over here, but draft is open to a lot more people now because what it was before is the reason why I'm not playing ranked, for example, is because I only own so many heroes, and those heroes can be taken up, and I can be forced to play things I'm not comfortable with, especially because you can't use free-to-play heroes in the thing. Now, instead of being capped until level 30 to play ranked, you can play ranked as soon as you have 14 or more heroes that are above level 5 that you own, or that are playable to you at that moment. What this will do is it opens the free to play into whether you have level 5 or not, and then B, it allows there to be a more legit limit. Because if somebody just bought all the 2,000 gold heroes in the game, they could get to ranked play much faster than it takes to reach level 30. And it also helps against the pay to win aspect of the game because I've been playing this game a lot and I haven't spent any money on it, but it's still taking me a while to get up to ranked play. But now I can really safely play ranked play, especially with the addition of this new free to play into ranked play, because now I can use characters that I just can play, which is really awesome. It really opens my spectrum to ranked play. It probably does for a lot of other people. Now you can right click through the game hero portrait. That's interesting. And now they can tell you a little bit of why you died. I really hope that included in this, like I said, is a way to say, look, you were away from the team and that's why you died, so like kick it up or something, because there seems to be there seems to be a huge gap between players who realize, oh shoot, I'm not, with the team, I'm not helping the team, I'm not doing what's right at the moment, and the players who can realize this. And if you have a player on your team that doesn't realize this, it's really hard to tell them that without like being insulting, and just sometimes you have to deal with it, and it's unfortunate. With the addition of like new stuff into ranked play, I have a feeling that ranked play is going to get a huge boost in popularity, which means there's going to be even more players in there that just don't know what they're doing, which could be a bad. Well, they're going to be in the lower ranks, so I guess you wouldn't care that badly, but just something to watch out for. They're changing out the hotkeys, so if you want to personalize your hotkeys and your experience, what you can do is, for example, I'm using an interesting mouse that has 6 keys on it, and I'm using differently bound keys. For example, I'd have noticed that my mount ability is S and my hearth ability is F. So I think Heroes of the Storm has got already had one of the best like hotkeying systems. It's just there was a few holes in it, but it was kind of like a minor complaint. But now I like how the developers, they listen, and I love it. New art stuff. A while ago they added better art to the games. So a lot of the games like previously childish art, and they also had a thing where the same picture in the same talent tier is a different color, so that way you can tell from a glance what it is a little bit more, instead of there being like two of the exact same picture and you'd have to read the thing to find out which one you wanted. In the shop, that's just new Dahaka stuff. For sound, yes, this is only to just remind people that they are indeed in queue and when they get into a game. And then if you like Li Ming a lot, then now she calls her own skill streaks. AFK detection is really good. Before, I think it was something like the player could be in the game for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something like that without being kicked, which is kind of weird. I can understand a minute, but anything beyond a minute is quite generous to the point where it's really not worth it, because if somebody's not come from being AFK for a minute, you're actually really starting to hurt your team's abilities. Well, like, beyond a minute, being AFK really affects your team's possibilities. And the thing is that although the AI, the bots that spawn, are not nearly as powerful as the players, they're much more powerful than an AFK player. And the thing is, the AFK player can always just get back into the game. If I recall, what happens is like they just put you on the screen and you can always just reconnect. It just basically helps the game move on much more. I like how they did that. Now these things happen to invulnerable targets. You can use movement abilities toward them, which is awesome. The on my way pathing lines. So now the on my way will show a line on the minimap to the projected path of travel. I don't know if it's a straight line or if it's like curvy, like a winding across the map. But either way, I really hope this doesn't interfere with your interface, because I can imagine this line being really annoying, especially if somebody would ping 3 times. There's been a huge community outbreak because a while ago they changed the system of pinging, and now you can only ping 3 times before you're being locked out, and the lockout time is much harder. I think what Blizzard's trying to tell us is that you don't need to ping 2 or 3 times. You really don't. And that's hard for me to get used to, and a lot of other people, but I think they're trying to really keep that so, this is only another incentive. Well, this is one way trolls, I assume, can, just annoy you, is by pinging 3 different on my way pathings, and it just marks up your minimap. But let's hope it's not so blocking, I hope. So now Dragon Knight, it's now immune to the attack speed slows of the big towers. Keep in mind, you still want to use the Dragon Knights, like you want to position Dragon Knight so it only takes damage from 1 tower at a time. But now it has better siege capabilities if left alone. Because before, like what would happen is if, say, both teams ignored it, both yours and your opponents, the minions would have to take the damage and you'd kind of have to wait for them, and it was weird. You were usually too impatient, and there was no reason why the Dragon Knight had to endure that kind of punishment. Savage Charge had a previous stun. I don't know if it's a bug or what, but now it's not. The W ability isn't really a stun. It kind of just knocks people away, but it can interrupt ultimates and such. The Garden Terror is massively changed. Before, it would just walk around and place tumors, And you couldn't chase it down, you couldn't kill it. It would always get the maximum duration, unless if the player inside did not know how to play it, the Garden Terror, right? And I think they want to move it to a team-based thing. Because the Dragon Knight, now that it's not slowed by attacks, it'll become more like heated debate for some reason. Again, all of this is linking to the fact that I don't think the tutorial or in-game tips provide enough information for new players. I think that there's a lot of people out there who just don't know what they're doing. Garden Terror and Dragon Knight, they want it to make it more impactful. Like, you should care that they're there. With the Garden Terror, they're making it so that, yeah, it has to devote its power to attacking one fort. It can't really go away. If it goes away, it loses, like, all of its power, practically. It can still run around and place polymorphs, but it only damages structures when it attacks them. And keep in mind, it's not immune to the attack speed slows. And it doesn't deal nearly as much damage. And also, it doesn't kill minions. It really has to have both teams collaborating with it. You can still solo Garden Terrors, by the way. The way, like, if the enemy team just completely ignores you, you can just, like, wreck the buildings. Which also, again, makes the enemy team have to respond to the Garden Terror. I really like what they did there. I like a lot of these changes that are helping, like, improve general player skill. It's great. Talents that got reworked. All of the blocks, like a lot of these heroes you're going to see reworked, it's just a minor thing because their version of block is named differently, and so they wanted to clear up, oh yeah, every single block in the game was changed to this. Except for Murky's, if I recall. Dampen Magic, if I recall, that was only on Stitches. But now this has changed. I haven't played Stitches too much. And these talents have been renamed. I don't know why they had to. Maybe because, like, you know, some person was complaining about vampires. Arcane Power, I believe that was only for Kael'thas. But that, if I recall, that was an ability to give him a shield for a while. And now it's even a longer duration shield, which is 10 seconds is a pretty long time. Because the thing about shields is that that's only a health boost or a heal for that many seconds. So now it has a less chance to whiff because that 10 seconds, like sometimes you could just ignore the 5 seconds and then start attacking him afterwards and he didn't even get the thing. But now, with 10 seconds, it's a really, really, really big deal. That's a major buff to Arcane Power, but we'll see that otherwise. So I'd like to point something out. Right now, a lot of quick matches are team deathmatch. Now, with the changes to ranked play, I'm going to be playing a lot more ranked play, for sure. And I encourage you guys to as well a little bit because that's the only way you're going to be able to play your assassins without going into team deathmatch. Unless if that's what you're looking for with Nova and Zeratul and other characters like that that just excel at no frontline games and no support games. By the way, yeah, if any time you should pick up Nova and Zeratul in quick match, it's now. Because although most of these are changes like Johanna, Rexar, Lily, and Brightwing, those are all changes to block. Rhaegar just got a minor change there. Now his totem can be killed by AoE effects. These don't really matter. Those are just like basic things like this. A lot of these are actually pretty big changes, so a lot of people are going to be playing these characters, especially like to see how good they are, and if they are overpowered, they're going to be super playing these characters. This just makes a lot of team deathmatches happen. So, I mean, it's unfortunate what team deathmatch is going to look like when this patch comes out, and I really don't want to be playing in team deathmatch, quick match. So that's just something to watch out for. But if you're playing Nova or Zeratul, then this could just be our hunting ground quick match. It'd just be a really good, fun area to go to. Anything I want to look at. I am a advocate for Kerrigan, so let's see what happened to her. In the Ultralisk now, they changed the way its egg works. Instead of being... It's more... I see this as being a way easier thing to kill for burst damage characters. Not necessarily Li Ming, because I feel like Li Ming could do the 1,000 damage that was required before, but maybe certain characters that have a small burst now can finally take down the Ultralisk. I don't know. I don't feel like this is enough for Kerrigan, because Kerrigan's in a pretty bad spot right now. I'm going to return. Other characters. The Butcher. Oh, yeah, this one I didn't like. So the Lambda Slaughter. So the thing about Butcher is that he's really hard to play because he requires a lot of team cooperation. And he requires that the enemy team is also not very smart or overextends a lot. And it's kind of like how Nova and Zeratul work right now as well. Is they completely rely on intelligence. And it's a really hard character to play. And now it's really even harder because His two ultimates, one of them you could either pick for damage, or the other one you would pick up if you needed a way to lock down people, because the Butcher can't lock down people at all. He just deals tons of damage and has a low health bar. So, like, he requires your team and the enemy team combined to really make him playable. And now, the Lamb to the Slaughter, the way he would lock down people and basically be able to one-on-one people even more efficiently, is taken away, kind of. Because now it's got a 90-second cooldown, so he can only kill one person, like, completely once every 90 seconds. And the duration is 1 whole second less of the entire effect. And now it does silence people, which is to note. I don't know if Blizzard just wants to take this in a different direction. Keep in mind it only silences one person, unless if you pick up the level 20 talent that nobody picks up, which is to post everybody on the enemy team that's within range into the post, into the Lamb to the Slaughter. But this is incredible, and I don't like it. I mean, the Butcher, I didn't play very often because it was very hard to secure kills in team deathmatch. But now, it's even harder. So it's very riskier. It's a harder character now, I'd say. Abathur's got changed. Oh, that's just neat. Because Charism's trait, remember, you have to pick it at level 1. So I think that, yeah, they weren't giving the Charism clone the Charism's trait. And that was a pretty major part of that. Okay, that's cool. That's a bit of a buff. Such a tiny buff, though. In my opinion. I think... Okay, Nazeebo I play kind of often. Weird. This is an interesting thing, because Nazeebo is at, like, the top of the charts right now. And here's the storm logs. Because... what's it called? Because he's just got overall good damage. And this is like an interesting work because if I recall, it dealt more damage to non-heroic targets. So this increases its team fighting applications for sure. And this is just going to make Nazeebo even stronger. So I don't know what they were thinking here. Because I don't think his power comes from his split pushing ability. He can definitely siege, but that mainly comes from his W. And his spiders and his abilities combined. Sylvanas. Okay, this is a huge change. I don't even know where to start because this is just, as you can tell, this is incredible. Her playstyle was basically to encourage people not to be with the team and to split push, and she's not even that good at it really. So, I mean, realistically, I think that where her specialty lies is in these maps where siege is really part of the objective. So what she does is basically, like, as a bonus as being a damage character, her bonus is that she also does siege damage. And then maybe her abilities come in handy for certain maps, for say. But now, let's see where she's going. So her basic attack damage does way more. 10 more. I'd say that's quite a big buff. Because, well, Sylvanas was all about the auto attacks before. And then the freeze as well. To all structures. Her Envenom was removed. That was one of the most picked talents on HOTS. And because it was just the best one at the tier, but as we can see, the tiers have greatly changed. So now that's definitely that could be almost not even perceivable. One thing that Sylvanas had is that at level 16 you always went for the vulnerability, because vulnerability in this game, wherever you can take it, you really want to take it. And then it was also incredibly good on this character in particular. So level 16 was incredibly it was incredibly difficult to choose from, because you'd have to go for that cold blood or cold embrace. But the problem is that there would have been more powerful options in that tier, except that it was unlockable. with the cold embrace being just the best. It seems like it's moved and done some other things as well. But it's probably still going to be picked because vulnerability in any form is really good. New ultimate, mind control. After channeling for a second, gain control of an enemy hero's movement speed for 2.5 seconds. This is really good and really interesting because it's the first of its kind, I think. It's almost like a big knockback, if you can think of it like that, like an ETC knockback. Almost. It could make enemies walk into, like, terrible things. For example, Nova's precision strikes. And you know what I mean by that, right? Any skill shots that your team has, you can very well coordinate. This can add a lot of skill to Sylvanas. Because as it is, she's basically one of the easiest characters in the game, which is alright. But this can add a lot of skill to it with team communications, for sure. And now the upgrade of that, level 20. The level 20 talent increases the movement speed of the affected character by 100%, which is, just allows for more ability. I don't think this has the same charge and cooldown of the possession, what possession used to have, because possession was a 20-second cooldown charge, if I recall, or 12-second cooldown charge, or something like that. I highly doubt that's what mind control is, and it doesn't seem like they give us any indication of what the cooldown is. So I'm interested to see. I feel like with its playability, it's like Mosh Pit and Devouring Maw and Void Prison, where it's actually incredibly powerful, but only if used by the right people and in the right moments. So it's probably going to have a 100 to 120, if I had to guess, 100 to 120 cooldown. And its mana, it shouldn't matter that much, because Sylvanas never had a mana problem anyway, because as long as you played her smartly, you would not use the E ability at will most of the time, because that's her only escape. One thing to note that's interesting here is that we see this 4 talents. Some garages have talent tiers with 5 talents. I think they might be trying to remove that based on this little indicator here. In fact, I think Sylvanas might have actually had the 5 talent tier somewhere. But I know Zagara does, and I'm going to look at Zagara's change in a minute. But that's an interesting direction. I'm totally okay with that, by the way. It seems like 5 auctions. I think what they need to do now with talents, or what they should do now, is just try to level the playing field with talents. Because it seems like most talents in the game are just not contestable. You actually can't choose anything else, which is kind of interesting. That might be alright for some talent tiers where the options otherwise are for tactical reasons that are rarely picked, or if the player's skill, for example like Cleanse, just outdoes the other talents. Those are good options. Now, Haunting Waves changed a bit. Ranger's Ambush and Shade Form have been removed, which is interesting. They weren't often picked, they were tactical things. Wind Runner talent is now level 13. Where'd Shadow Dagger go? The Cold Embrace talent. The Cold Embrace talent has not been moved, which is interesting to hear. Cold Embrace no longer has a shorter range, but now only the initial target becomes vulnerable, and that's a pretty big deal, because the whole point of Cold Embrace was the vulnerability, and one thing of Shadow Dagger was that it was the only mass vulnerize that I knew of, at least. And it was pretty mass, as you can tell. It would just vulnerize everything, which was incredible. It would really accelerate your team's damage. And now, it's got the same range as it did, but it only makes one target vulnerable. I think this is a pretty good idea. It's still probably going to be the best talent, if I'm going to be honest, because vulnerability is just not very tradable. Cold Embrace is still probably going to be the top tier talent at level 16, unless if one of these is probably related to like Sustain. For example, in Team Deathmatch, which is going to happen way more, the new Sylvanas players who are testing out Sylvanas' changes might consider going for a Sustain talent at that tier or something. Before it was Will of the Forsaken, but we saw that was moved. The Lost Soul talent was moved from level 1 to level 4, and now its functionality is different. It was before a 2-second reduction on the cooldown, but now it's a 1.25 second reduction for every enemy hero hit. That's really good as far as encouraging players to get away from the lanes, because keep in mind this is only heroes. You can't exactly do this split pushing, which is amazing, because before you might see Sylvanas is just going wherever they pleased. But this encourages people to hit heroes. You can already get the 1.25 by hitting a hero easily in a team fight, but this is going to be incredible because that could easily spread to 3 players. And that would be a 3.75 second reduction. That's like half the cooldown of the Shadow Dagger itself, which is pretty crazy. Well, at least I think it is. Life Drain is now moved to level 13, which is important because before you might take that talent versus Sustain early game, because level 7's early enough. But now level 13 is where that's at. So you gotta keep in mind, now you're gonna take level 4 Lost Soul, most likely, and then level 13 Life Drain, and level 16 Cold Embrace, which is interesting. Withering Fire's damage was increased, which is pretty awesome, and Corruption was removed. Yay! You know what, Blizzard? I don't think anybody would shed a tear if you just removed Demolitionist from the game. Again, it encourages people to go split push, which is not what they should be doing at all. It really discourages team play. to have Demolitionists in the game. Having Demolitionists in the game is just not fun for the rest of us who want to play the game effectively. A lot of talents were just moved here, as you can see. And Evasive Fire was moved to level 16. That's one of the primary sustain talents. It would allow you to move faster after shooting Withering Fire shots. And as you can imagine, with the low cooldown of Withering Fire, that would allow you to move very fast. So, I mean, I don't know, because I feel like Will of the Forsaken did just that at level 16. It would temporarily increase your speed and make you live through something you wouldn't usually. So it just kind of replaced that that old thing. Unfortunately, the talents that were replaced for having Sylvanas be a split pusher, they were just that. They were replaced. They have Mercenary Lord or Queen. They have not Withering Barrage. They move Possession from a heroic to a level 1 talent or level 7 talent, Possession, which is unfortunate because again, that's to encourage people to split push when they really shouldn't. I can see the application of this move though, taking Possession, because if you're in a prolonged team fight, you could easily just dip out for like 2 seconds or before the fight starts. With Possession, you can like effectively take a mercenary camp, or a half one at least, because what you could do before is take a mercenary camp with any character, right before the objective starts, and because all teams are focused on the objectives, the mercenaries definitely get some pushing done. And Possession is like half of that, I suppose. It's really tactical, but I feel like what's going to happen instead is players are just going to like use the torches as much as possible by staying in lane, which is really not good for the community's sake. Black Arrows has been changed because Paralysis is no longer nearly as effective, and Unstable Poison now is completely a split push, it seems. It's a split push talent. What it did before is minions and people that die, I think it was anything that died under Black Arrows, which is why you pick Paralysis sometimes. Anything that would die under those would explode, and that could be really good for lane fights, and it would also just incredibly burst your wave clear to incredible levels. Not like you exactly needed it, because Sylvanas already had some pretty good wave clear, but now it's just strictly split pushing, it seems, or just if your team lacks wave clear, this could be that's where Unstable Poison comes in. So one thing you can see here is at level 16, the tier now is contested between Cold Embrace and one heavy damage ability, but not nearly as damaging as Cold Embrace. I think we can all agree with that right now. But Evasive Fire and Overwhelming Affliction, two ways that Sylvanas can escape, must be sacrificed with the Cold Embrace, which is going to be an interesting choice. Definitely not in Team Deathmatch, because in Team Deathmatch you don't need more damage. That's all the team is. Life Drain, probably going to be the level 13 talent every time. These are all survivability talents, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Life Drain would be the best, because that one actually heals you, whereas the others don't. Although, if you're in a situation where you're never in clumped up groups, Life Drain won't work. Barbed Shot, Unstable Poison, and Possession. Barbed Shot is increased damage on the Q, and Unstable Poison is, again, strictly split push, and Possession is that extra, like, something before team fights start. I'm not sure how that would work. I think at level 4, the increased range on the Q, or decreased cooldown on the Shadow Dagger. What's Withering Barrage, though, actually? That's important. I don't know if that'd be worth it. We'd have to find out. You could probably do some synergy thing with it now that I think about it, because Withering Barrage, Overflowing Quiver, maybe. I don't know. We'll just have to see how this plays out, because she's going to be definitely a different character by the sun's rising of that day. Zagara. This is a really big change, actually. Well, I don't know if it's that big. Nidus Swarm, what you would do before is you would place one in the base and 3 others, one for each lane, particularly. Well, at least the way I played it, because this is a very unknown talent because of how good the Devouring Maw is. But Devouring Maw was recently nerfed. You'd place one Nidus Worm in the Nexus, so that way you could get all your mana and health back. And the idea was that because you didn't have a mana problem, and you had global presence, you were able to both split push effectively while being safe, because you had so much vision of the map with your creep build. And you also had incredible mana and health regen on command. This, I don't know, because if you just stay in one Nidus Worm, surely when the enemies kill it, that you just pop out, which means that you'll have to teleport anyway, although it is instant. Okay, so I guess that's not a problem, but then it's gonna... You can't run away exactly through a Nidus Worm unless the enemy team doesn't see you do it. But it's interesting to note that one of your teleportation destinations doesn't have to be in the Nexus. That's interesting. they're giving notes on the Nightworm and not just taking it out of the game instead of making it really good. Because I think it has a place for funness sake. That'll be all for my review in this patch. I hope that really helped out you guys. So subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing. Like this video if you liked it. Leave some comments down below for conversations. That's cool. And share this video with your friends if you think they would like it as well. That'll be all for today. See ya.